Call the meeting to order. Trustee Studi and Trustee Johnson are absent. Trustee Gasser is excused. Is that correct?
Sure. Yeah.
Or are we just excusing everyone?
Everyone.
Do the chair. For this one, everyone's excused. We did have some notice, so we'll say everyone's excused. All right then, let's stand for pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public comment and input. All right then, moving on. Next, I think we're going to approve agenda. Okay, we saw item 4. So it reads consent agenda and minutes. A little bit of change. We're going to go to approve agenda and minutes. As consenting the agenda means something a little bit different than we found out.
I'm learning in my clerk's class, everybody.
Oh, really?
All right, then is there a motion?
Then to approve the agenda?
Approve agenda and minutes.
I move to approve the agenda and minutes of the meeting from June 9th, 2022.
All right, motion by Trustee Root to approve the agenda and minutes of 6/9/22. Is there a second? We'll give that to Stein.
Okay.
Discussion. All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Guys have it, so passed. Next presentation. Presentation of the 2021 audit by Gordon J. Meyer. Jordan,
yeah. Does anybody need a pink cup? Because I brought a few extras.
You have one? Yeah, I have another thing.
Okay. There you go. All right. From what I understand, this is a good spot. Okay. So these are your financial statements for the village. So I'm just going to run you through them a little bit. We obviously were engaged to do the audit on the village. And if you get past the table of contents, you're going to see the audit report. It is a little interesting to look at this year because they did change how it looks. It starts out obviously talking about that we gave an opinion, and it's a clean opinion that we gave. And then it says the basis for our opinion, and it talks about what your responsibility is for management as well as the auditors. And what's different is if you go to page 2, they decided to, the new letters are really detailing out there under auditing standards. What are we doing when we come in, right? We're exercising professional judgment and skepticism, right? We're looking at whether there's material misstatements in these statements. We're looking at the internal controls. We're looking at your accounting policies. And we're evaluating whether there's any sort of aggregate issues or substantial doubt with these statements, right? And so the good news is when we got through all of this, we basically said that we felt that these were an unmodified set of statements and everything. In other words, is a clean report, as you're probably familiar hearing that term. Then the next set is the MD&A, and that's just this verbiage narrative. If you don't like looking at it on the numbers, it's a way you can kind of look at the statements in a shorter way on a narrative basis. And the best one just to look at is page 3 because it tells you, in a nutshell, your net position increased $100,903 over the year. Your rental income came in actually a little bit more than what you had budgeted for. And then your intergovernmental income also was up because of that ARPA money that you got. So then the other statements are really, the pages are like synopsis of what you'll see in the longer statements. I'm going to skip over those because they're just like condensed versions. So the longer versions start on page 9. And that statement of net position is what's called the government-wide statement. So that's like looking at a for-profit entity's set of financial records. So if you were looking at a for-profit entity's books, you're going to see things like capital assets. And that's what you see on here right up at the top. You're going to see debt, right? How much debt do they owe? In the government world, before they required these, because these were newer, even though they've been around now over a decade, but before all of that, everything in the government world was strictly the fund balance. Everything was on fund balance basis. So if you bought a capital asset, it was shown over in the expense area. You never saw it on what you'd think of as a balance sheet, and it never showed that. But that's where at some point they realized, well, it'd be good for readers of government statements to know, gee, what are all the capital assets they own? And ask them in the case of a government entity is infrastructure. So one of the big things that happened for you, if you were looking at last year's to this year's, is you guys made a big investment in your infrastructure, right? You spent $500 and some thousand on infrastructure, and I can show you that in the footnotes. And then down on the debt side, you actually incurred some debt related to doing that project. So that's the big change for you on that one. 10 is what we call the statement of activities. And the difference between this and that whole fund balance style one is you will not see those capital assets as an expense. You won't see the principal payments as an expense because those just flow through what you just saw. This is really back down to the other expenses that's being listed here. And they like to show this in a way that they start actually with expenses by these areas. You're seeing governmental, public safety, public works, and then you subtract what are charges for service revenue, which is different than your property taxes or general revenue down below. So they kind of break the revenue into two categories. What's charges that you're getting in versus taxing dollars and things, or intergovernmental revenue. So as we talked about before, you did have a positive change, 100,000. And then page 11 is that fund balance, the governmental funds that have been here for decades and decades and decades. And if you look, see, there's no capital assets, there's no bonds here or long-term debt, and then there's a reconciliation at the bottom that helps you get from this set of net assets over to the other. So you can kind of get to the fund balance over to the net position. And page 12 then is that everything that came in the door for your village and out the door throughout the year, and it really splits it more in that format of list all that revenue and then list all those expenses. And you can see in that expense area, there's where you spent $114,672 to pay principal, right? And you wouldn't see something like that over on the other set of statements. So over on this side, when you do it on the fund balance basis, you obviously expended more than you got in, but you got some proceeds and you had some planned resources of revenue that helped you, accomplish those capital expenditures, right? And there's a reconciliation on that one too. Somebody's trying to get between the two. Page 14 is your fiduciary fund, and so that just shows you collected $346,661 in property tax dollars by December 31st. If you're working as a fiscal agent on that, in the sense that you don't keep all of that. Some of that goes back off to Gateway, some of that goes back off to Racine Unified, and you keep your share. Page 13 is your footnotes. Nothing really fancy in your footnotes. It just talks about the way you have to track your capital assets, your net position. It goes on to talk about the fund balance statements and how you have to track your fund balances. Page 17 goes on to talk a little bit more about your measurement focus at the bottom of 17 and continues on to 18 and then talks a little bit about your budgeting system on 18 as well as deferred inflows. And then 19 goes on to talk about what's considered cash and investments, and for you guys, you just follow state statutes. So what you're seeing here is a reflection of state statutes. How you work your property taxes, and then it goes on to page 20 and talks a little bit more about how do you depreciate your capital assets, what's considered a prepaid. And then 21 talks about do you have any custodial risk, and that's anything that you have in cash that could be at risk. And so the good news for you there, between being government entities, you get $250 for your savings, time and savings, and $250 for your checking, and then you get $450 for the state, so you got some nice coverage there. So bottom line, nothing was uninsured, nothing was uncollateralized, so that's good news for you guys. Page 22 goes on, and there's where you can see that capital asset change I was talking about. You can see that 505 being invested in the infrastructure there up at the top. And then the next page gets into the debt. Obviously, you took some debt on associated with that. You can see that general obligation note as a new obligation note in the middle of 23. And then you can see kind of the long-range payment plan on all of that and how that's going to get paid down over time. So if you ever kind of want to know where that's at and how that's going to go down the road. And then the last page, nothing significant there. You had no subsequent events, just a small, tiny related party transaction. And then your budget actuals. And the summary on the budget actuals for you is just that your revenues were actually up from budget. And that was because, you did that project and you got some debt in, right? And the expenditure is somewhat similar. The biggest reason you're over on the expenditure side is you had that big investment in the capital infrastructure that you did. So, any questions?
I don't have any questions. Okay, thank you. Kelly, did you have any questions?
I don't, not yet.
If you have any, you can always, he knows my email too and how to reach me. So you can always feel free to reach out to me and call me. Or email me.
All right,
Okay,
thank you.
so much.
thank you. So I think you have to make a motion to approve the audit as presented to how the wording is.
All right, we have a motion.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion to approve the 2021 audit as presented by trustee Stein. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Hinkle. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Guys have it, so passed.
Okay,
Thank you.
we'll have a good night, guys.
Sorry for the delay.
Oh, no, I told them, it's totally fine. It's not like it's a bad day and I'm not in a hurry to get anywhere, so.
Good luck in your travels.
Yeah, I told her I'm climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in October.
Oh, nice. Really?
Yeah, so we know if anybody wants to, we have a crew going, I mean, if you.
That's one of my dreams in life, that and Mount Fuji. 'cause they're
Really?
both
Yeah, no,
easy.
I have connections in Africa and my outfitter, it's costing $1,800 a person and then you'll have to, it's like you get a whole crew and they carry the food and cook and it's 4 nights up, 4 nights down, it's lobby.
1,800?
I'm going direct through Africa. Everybody in America marks everything up, but I have Rotary friends and a Rotary, and so the Rotary friends make sure you pay Rotary prices and their prices and not the market prices. And then you have to buy your airline ticket there.
Well, yeah.
He knows my number, so.
I'm gonna call you.
Okay, please do if you want.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, I got a group of Rotarians going. It's gonna be great.
I recently reread Snows of Kilimanjaro by Hemingway.
Oh, see, totally, then maybe you should call me.
All right, thank you so
Thanks,
much,
Ann.
everybody, take care.
All right, moving on. Reports, sheriff's report, we'll hold on. Hopefully they'll be here. President's report. So the big one right now is streetlights. We got a little lucky on the east side and the west side right now. We're continuing on. That should have been done by now. There's a little bit of a scheduling issue. Premier is probably the best way to say it. So I contacted them this week asking where we're at. Now we're looking at Monday. They have guys scheduled to come back out. And so we're going to dig a hole over on Lathrop and see if we can pretty much do the same thing we did on the east side. So there's some broken wires underground. So this versus spending the hundreds of thousands of dollars for complete replacement is a better option. So this is something that can be looked at again when we get further down the line, 4 years, 5 years. But yeah, just patching it for now I don't think is too bad of an idea. The next one, we were having satellite conversations about it for the building 5 occupancy that's now moving forward. So then that leads us right into the next issue, which is the repaving project. Nielsen Madsen Barber was out, it feels like 2 weeks ago already, but it was this week. Chris and I had a meeting with them. We looked over the existing plans. There were a few changes that were implemented. Moving the drive closer to building 4 and 5 was a big item. A little bit of change in the street light locations just to make everything look more uniform. And then now we're going to 45-degree angled parking to help, number one, keep two lanes open, because we're talking about having 2 lanes of one direction traffic, because you see like when we have drop-offs and whatnot, that sometimes people form a queue. So this allows you to have 1 queue lane and then 1 passing lane. So then, being one-way traffic, the south entrance would be the ingress, and then the north entrance would be the egress, and then you'll have a dedicated right and left turn lane. So that's good. So the next step is now, we're gonna get this plan from them. We're gonna send it to the city. There's 2 levels of review. One is through PhD, which is planning historic development. I keep forgetting what the name is. It was several departments that merged into one. They have to approve the plan on a higher level because this parcel is rolled into some type of development status. Previous board did this, so it's just it's one more level of stuff we have to do. It's not so bad. So once we have that from Nielsen Madsen, we're going to send in our application. It sounds like it's going to get approved. Then after that, we do a quick rebid. Depending, most of it's going to depend on how different their drawing is than what asphalt contractors have. But I'd like to get a check number on it at least, just to see where we're at. And if their number is lower, then we need to say it, but we're bound. They got to pick the lowest qualified bidder. So that's the big items there. I do want to congratulate and thank, the events committee and anyone who had anything to do with Tunes on Taylor and any of the events that are happening throughout the village. There's a lot of excitement. People are talking about these things, and it really does bolster that sense of community that we all talk about. So thank you to the events committee. All right then.
We'll cover windows and doors too.
Well, that's less exciting. The bid process started for that, so we're anticipating bids due. Originally, they were due Tuesday. We're going to do a little bit of an extension, so Thursday. Right now, we have 3. It looks like we're going to get 3 prices on that, so that's a good number. Once the number comes in, then we'll obviously sit down with the 2 low bidders, talk about scheduling, sequencing, any lead times that go with the scheduling, any other concerns around tenants, and then look at what building we can actually do for the money that we have, and then that comes back to the board for your approval. Okay? Yeah, less fun than the other stuff. All right then, Trustee Gasser, excused. Trustee Hinkle?
Nothing to report?
Okay, Trustee Johnson's excused. Trustee Root?
Nothing at this time.
Trustee Stein?
No report.
All right, Trustee Studi is excused. Administrator Jenkins?
Getting caught up in my notes. Let's see. Summarizing some of the stuff, a lot of stuff we already talked about, but yep, we've had great events with Rummage Sale and the Tunes on Taylor event. We have another one coming up at the end of July here. And another band, another food truck, do a barbecue this time. Drinks, be a great old time, and then we're going to try and do one more in August, so that should be lots of fun. The Standish Lane Park project stuff is going just fine. We'll talk more about that later tonight. As far as infrastructure things, President Rossi covered most of that. And then we're getting into, hard to believe it, but we're getting into fall election season already, so absentee ballots were sent out. I've had a few residents who already either sent back information or asking questions. Every other year when we have a partisan primary, that's when people always get kind of mixed up and they mess up their ballots, right, and have lots of questions. Who do they vote for, all that good stuff. So we're happy to answer those questions for anybody who needs it. And then after this meeting, once we complete the June reconciliations, which your finance chair has now, then we'll get into our budget process already for 2023, start meeting and discussing. Got lots of cool ideas and plans, and looking forward to those discussions. So, I do want to take the time, since we had our auditor today, to kind of go through a kind of 6-month highlights. If you want to pull out your profit and loss statements that I hand out, and we'll just kind of very simply go through top to bottom, kind of where we're at. So starting with our taxes, we're right on par. We'll receive the rest of our tax income during our August reconciliations, as we do every year. Intergovernmental revenues are just fine. A lot of these we just wait till later in the year to receive, so they're doing great. Permits, you'll see a lot of the permit numbers are up. So we've seen big increases, and again, this is only hundreds of dollars, so it's not that much, but we're still seeing big increases in plumbing, electrical, dog license fees, things like that. People continue to do work, or we catch them doing work, and then we make sure that they are doing their due diligence. Fines, you see those are up a little bit too, which is great to see. Maybe not for everybody, but great for the village. On rental income, building 1 is doing just fine, on track. Building 2 is down. We were aware of that. We obviously budgeted higher. They came down, the original tenants got the full building, and then that arrangement changed, and they started a little bit later. But anyway, so we're all aware of that as well. Building 3 is doing great, as we know, with the hall and gym rentals. We've already are 8,000 above our budgeted goal, and we'll keep seeing that rise as we head into the holidays, I'm sure, as well. And then buildings 4 and 5 and the cell tower are all on track as well. Then when you go to the expense side, the bottom sheet, we see that our principal and interest payments are all paid. There's just that one outstanding interest payment that we make later on in the year, every year. So we'll wait to be excited to pay that. On the general government side, all those numbers are normal. Payroll is fine. We just might increase a little bit later on in the year in our openers and closers and inspectors because we're doing more hall rentals right and they can pay them more. And same thing with our permits, we're doing more permitting, so we're going to pay our inspectors more as well. So we'll do line item transfers if and when we need to for those. The office supplies are on track and doing just fine. The maintenance expenses, while I guess I would have thought they'd be higher, they're actually doing okay, which is great to see, despite, equipment keeps breaking and things keep happening. But luckily, we kind of fortified the amount that we put into that budget, so we're doing okay as far as expenses go there. And then just the individual utilities, they're pretty much okay. You'll see a little bit of out of whack in building number 4. So you'll see that one line item is higher than budget for, that's the gas, but then that's balanced because we've gotten reimbursed from the tenant for their electric. So in totality, building 4 is doing just fine. Public safety stuff, we've paid the bills that we've received. We have not received a bill yet from the fire department or dispatch. I do an email out to the fire chief that we're seeing. It's our first year we've ever seen fire department. So they probably just invoice us at a different time, most likely at the end of the year, which works out just fine for us as well. And then finally, with Public Works, garbage is on track, lift station power is fine, recycling is fine. We haven't really done any technical road maintenance, so that is doing just good. And then, as always, you just got to pray and hope that snow does not come until January of 2023, because then we'll be just fine. Speaking of which, I have been working this week on a draft for RFP for snow removal, so that'll go out to landscapers fairly soon. Because again, we've only been on a 1-year contract with asphalt as our snow removal services, so we'll throw it out there, see what bids we get, and then approve either them or a new contractor. I think that's it.
You mentioned police item because of their not being here, he's mentioned something that's come out of that standard.
Oh, sure. For the public who might be watching, we are well aware of a complaint about a motorcyclist in the village. We have followed up with our sheriff's department on that matter, and they will be handling it.
Thank you.
Okay.
It has been addressed.
It has been.
Any questions? All right, on the new business. Next item, approval of a concept plan for the design and construction of a neighborhood park on the vacant lot of Standish Lane, tax parcel 1210233009000 by the village of Homewood Park. Chris, please.
Sure. You have a nice summary in your packet that kind of summarizes how we've gotten here over the last couple of approvals. So this plan that was in your packet went to the Plan Commission and was unanimously approved at that meeting. They just added a couple of questions and conditions. The questions are answered in your packet regarding enclosures and wood chips and things like that. They added a couple conditions, including some sort of border of a split rail fence that you'll see on the property, a request for signage with hours from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., installing one new lamp and locations listed there, and as well as the location of the playground itself. So just to summarize, when you look at the property, while it looks pretty big, the playground itself is going to be sat on the north end of the property, kind of in the center, and that way it actually gives more room for possible expansion, throwing ball, other activities in the green that's there to the south. So that was asked by the commission as well. I talked about the plan here, so assuming that this gets approved tonight, then we'll give the okay to Lee's Recreation to order the equipment, and that'll lock in our price that we've been quoted. But it'll take some time for that equipment to come in. So this year, again, we do the ordering, get the equipment, and do the demo of the property, which will be removing the shed and the little weather vane that's currently there. And then in springtime, we would schedule a time, one with a landscaper or a contractor to prep the site. So they would dig it out by whatever measurements it needs to be. It needs to be 1 feet deep, smooth it all out and everything. And then Lee comes in with the equipment and does the install from there. On funding, you see my little financial summary, it's saying that it has been, the majority of this project will get covered with ARPA funding that we have. We have been fielding already from residents about sponsorship opportunities for the benches and picnic tables. There actually is a lot of interest out there. So I'm thinking in the Q3 newsletter, I'm just going to send out a separate sheet that'll inform residents of this opportunity. They can send us donations, it'd be great. We'll put your name on whatever you want. We'll gladly accept the donations, and it'll be great to have that money. And then any difference that is needed, we'll just get budgeted for in 2023. So you might see additional cushion in our savings for that purpose then as well. I think that's it.
Okay, one item, the 8 foot, it should probably be a 6 foot at most of the time they're like 4 foot.
Okay.
Yeah, otherwise they're perfect.
So we'd be looking for approval of that concept plan so we can be okay.
And we'll have discussion again when we get to the motion, but does anyone have any questions?
I looked at the picture, it looks really nice.
Yeah, the orientation right now is the north side of the lot, basically corner fencing at the lot, so to kind of define the park area.
Right.
And there's a lot of discussion that was had about, what do the neighbors think? And most of the neighbors, well, all the neighbors at this point don't really care about the fence. If anything, the one in the north doesn't want a fence because his kids want to be, or his grandchildren want to be able to run right into the yard. Yeah, so
Sure.
there are questions that will probably about the safety or the appropriateness of the mulch and those types of things.
Those things have not been settled yet then?
No, they are.
It's in your packet. The contractor uses certified manufactured wood chips that are made just for playground use.
Oh, I didn't see it. Okay, okay.
And the idea being that with the playground on the north side of the lot, and it pretty much utilizes 50% of the lot, so then you have the south side of the lot, which is open for if you wanted to expand in the future.
Sure.
I mean, if parking becomes an issue, you could potentially do some parking there. The idea is now that it's open, we've got some options with the south side of the lot.
Agreed. That makes sense.
And then people were talking about, is it okay for dogs? And one of the items in that discussion was the closing time in the park. So that was another recommendation was 8 to 8, so a 12-hour window. We can change that later on if we want, but 8 to 8 seemed to be the recommendation from the planning commission. The dogs, we've seen dogs are not allowed in the parks. So this is kind of a don't abuse it situation.
Mm-hmm.
If dogs become a problem, and it's not so much the dogs, it's what the dogs leave behind, or the owners leave behind, if that becomes an issue, then we might have to not allow dogs in the park. So it's just interesting that, other people are looking at utilizing the park, not so much just for the playground equipment, but for a place to meet. So these are all great things.
Oh, I should add, speaking of timing, that I did check with the sheriff's department on enforcement. So once we have a park, like an official park, with signage that indicates these hours, we do need to have an ordinance that pertains to the park.
Okay.
That way they can point to an ordinance when enforcement is needed. And so that would be the same time where you talk about, do you allow dogs? What don't you allow in the park? What do you allow? That would all be in that one section of the ordinance about the same thing.
So we're going to have two things that are, well, maybe 3 things. Two items on the agenda that will come up later on, which is going to be the ordinance section for the park. We've never really had to deal with that before. So it's going to have all these things like the time going on in there. So the time can really be addressed later on. It doesn't need to be part of the plan.
Yeah.
And then another part of that's going to be, there's been a lot of excitement about this and people are starting to talk about, what should it be named? We're going to have an agenda item where we discuss what the park's going to be named. If there's going to be a plaque, a sign, anything like that, that'll be something that we discuss because it was not put on one of the requirements from the planning commission. So we've got plenty of time to figure that part of it out. This is to get it approved so that everything can get ordered, because it's not taking.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay, I'll move to approve the concept plan for the design and construction of a neighborhood park on the vacant land on Standish Lane.
Okay, including the conditions.
Yes, including the conditions of approval.
Right. Excellent. We have a motion to approve the concept plan for design and construction of the neighborhood park on the vacant lot on Standish Lane with listed conditions by trustee Hinkle. Is there a second?
A second.
All right, second by trustee Stein. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Oh, excuse me, I didn't do discussion. Discussion? No discussion, good. Opposed? You guys have it, so passed. Right. Moving on.
I just have one question real quick. With the lighting that they're gonna have there, are they gonna have like a vapor light type light that comes on and that's
It's gonna match the lighting that we have now, so it'll be, if we're gonna find something that's similar, it's probably not gonna be an exact match unless we take a pole from, what we could do if we wanted to get really creative, is we could take a pole from the end of, what is that goes down, the Mount Pleasant one that's heading over there. We could take that pole, we'll probably just get something that's similar and throw it right in the first 15 feet of the park.
and then they just go on the motion guide?
Yeah, it goes down with the rest of them,
Okay,
so photo cell, light sensor.
yep, that's what I was thinking about. Okay, thank you.
Okay, B, creation of a new 2022 budget line item for fuel expenses. Please, Chris.
Sure, it's pretty easy. We pay for fuel in a variety of ways, as I mentioned in my memo every year. Normally it's either government ground maintenance or miscellaneous. We really should just have a dedicated line item for this purpose. So that's all I'm looking for.
Fun stuff.
Real exciting.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to create a new 2022 budget line item labeled fuel expenses.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Simon to create a new 2022 budget line item for fuel expenses. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Hinkle. Discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? You guys have it, so passed. Next, and the rest of these are all more fun stuff. Resolution 2022-6, a resolution creating section 13.023E, possession, use of marijuana or synthetic drug marijuana and drug paraphernalia. Chris.
Yes. So first off, I'll start this by saying, both for you guys and the public, this is not deciding whether marijuana is legal or not in the village of Elmwood Park. It is already illegal for you to have all the things that are described in the ordinance. The only difference is that because it's not codified in our own ordinances, when the Racine Sheriff's Department pulls somebody over and finds these things, they have to write the tickets under Racine County, and so the county's collecting those citations and fine revenue, and we are not. So by us codifying it, now we can get a cut of the pie, so to speak.
Now it makes sense.
Yes.
Well, apparently, a lot of the stops, that ticket's being written almost all the time.
So what brought this up is we actually had a sheriff's officer who was at Tuesday Taylor, and he was informing us, he's like, yeah, you guys are missing out on a lot of revenue, because majority of the tickets that I write right now are about this.
Really?
And, so that's how we do it. So, but we're not seeing it in our reports, right, because it's not for us.
It's going to the county.
We don't have an ordinance. Yeah,
Never would have known that.
yeah. So thank you, I forget that officer's name, but thank you for letting us know, and hopefully we'll be collecting a little bit more fine revenue.
All right, do we have a motion?
I will move to create a section 13.02,
Well, you approve the resolution.
well,
You move
okay.
to approve the resolution 2022.
Okay, resolution 2022-6. I move to approve the resolution 2022-6.
Okay, a motion by, we have a motion by trustee Hinkle to approve resolution 2022-6, a resolution creating section 13.023E, possession, use of marijuana or synthetic marijuana and drug paraphernalia. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by trustee Rude. Discussion?
Can I add one thing? Just so you know, procedurally, and normally I don't tell you guys this because it doesn't matter, but when we approve ordinances that have to do with fines, we typically do a posting in the paper within 15 days of you adopting this. And letting you know in case anybody sees it in the paper and asks questions, now you know what it's about.
Okay,
Okay?
Excellent.
thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, so passed. Okay. Next item then, good old CMAR. Resolution 2022-7, a resolution approving the annual CMAR compliance, so that everyone, you guys should be familiar with this at this point. Compliance and maintenance annual report. This is the state checking on us to make sure we're maintaining our municipal system, so sewers, roads, things like that. Chris, please.
We passed. I would say maybe the only change out of this is that finally, and Trustee Stein doesn't know, but every time we talk about this, okay, the DNR reminds us that we don't have like an emergency management plan for our stormwater. So like if it failed, right, they want us to rely on this nice book, handy book, that we have in order to help mitigate the situation, okay? So we've asked for many years for examples or other resources, and you know the city of Racine is super helpful when it comes to that. So long story short, that hasn't been getting done. This time around, we have a new rep from the DNR who's been much more helpful, who has sent me examples, and I got so excited because we literally can go word for word now and copy and pretty much be even more compliant than we are year to year. So I'm looking forward to working on that in my downtime. We have a year to get it done. It's fine if we pass this report, but that'd be great for future administrations and future boards to have for if and when that day comes. Thank you, DNR.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion for the resolution accepting the submission of the 2021 CMAR report.
Okay, I'm gonna change the wording a little bit.
Please.
Let me know if you agree. We have a motion by Trustee Stein to approve Resolution 2022-7, a resolution approving annual CMAR compliance.
Oh.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Hinkle. Discussion?
Is it 2021 or should it be 2022? I don't know if these are done like a year.
Yeah, this is 2021. Your resolution up at the top has been saying 2020 for some reason. It's passed in 2022, but it's about 2021.
Okay, so it's 2022.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
And then it's the 21.
So that's an error on here then.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You guys have it so fast? Next, Resolution 2022-8, a resolution authorizing the transfer of budgeted funds from attorney to postage, more balance and stuff. Chris?
Well, somebody has been wanting me to send out a lot of notices about a park, so that's been costing a lot more postage. So we are transferring money so we can continue to pay for stamps.
I move to pass resolution 2022-8, a resolution authorizing the transfer of budgeted funds from attorney to postage.
Excellent. We have a motion by Trustee Ruud to approve Resolution 2022-8, a resolution authorizing the transfer of budgeted funds from attorney to postage. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Stein. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, so passed. Resolution 2022-9, a resolution authorizing the transfer of budgeted funds from Taylor Complex to fuel. Second part of what we were doing earlier. Chris, please.
This is just funding that new item.
I move to approve resolution 2022-9, a resolution authorizing the transfer of budgeted funds from Taylor Complex to fuel.
We have a motion on the table from Trustee Ruud to approve Resolution 2022-9, a resolution authorizing the transfer of budgeted funds from Taylor Complex to fuel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Hinkle. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? You guys have it, so passed. Accounts payable, we everyone's had a chance to review. You sign it? Yeah, you just put your initial at the bottom there. Date. Okay, Trustee Hinkle. Need a quick minute to go through.
Yep, that's good.
I do go through every one of those, but still. And Trustee Ruud does spend a lot of time on those two.
I know that.
All right.
Okay, then.
So with that,
We're looking for a motion.
I will make a motion. I will move to approve the accounts payable.
All right, we have a motion on the table by Trustee Hinkle to approve accounts payable. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Trustee Ruud. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? You guys have it, so passed. And with that, we're adjourned.